You ever have one of those moments where your entire life shifts in 5 seconds flat? Where you walk into a meeting thinking it's about one thing, and by the time you leave, everything has changed? Yeah. That was the Thursday morning I got called into a quick sync with my boss. Nothing about it felt urgent. I was still finishing my coffee when I walked into his glass-walled office. He didn't even look up, just pointed to the chair and kept typing. His silence was louder than any greeting. I'm Evelyn Hayes, 38, single mom, former senior project strategist at X Solutions, or almost former. He finally looked at me and smiled. That tight corporate smile that never quite reaches the eyes. We're making some strategic adjustments to staffing, he said. His voice was smooth, rehearsed. And we're asking everyone at your level to take a temporary compensation adjustment. I blinked. A compensation adjustment? He pushed a folder toward me. I opened it and saw the number before I even registered the words. 55%. My salary. Cut in half, plus some. Effective in 2 weeks. You want me to take a 55% pay cut? Temporarily, he said like it was some kind of favor. We're realigning our budgets, trimming some fat. I felt my cheeks burn. I'm not fat. He laughed like we were old friends. Of course not, Evelyn. But look, the reality is, we're in a different market now. If this isn't something you feel good about, we'll need to find someone who will. He knew. He knew I was a single mom. He knew about the mortgage, about Ava's special needs program, about the medical bills from last year. He wasn't offering a pay cut. He was daring me to push back. I sat perfectly still. I'll need a day, I said. He raised an eyebrow. To consider the offer? To breathe, I said. And to read the fine print? He smiled again. Of course. I walked out of that office with my chin up, like I hadn't just been gut-punched, like I hadn't already started calculating what I could sell first, my car or my sanity. Back at my desk, my hands were shaking too hard to type. I stared at the screen, blinking back the sting in my eyes, and thought about Ava. 10 years old, autistic, brilliant, sensitive, obsessed with stars and planets and routines. She needed stability, safety, predictability, and I had just been handed chaos. I didn't cry. Not then. That came later, in the car, parked behind the grocery store. That silent kind of crying when your body knows there's no time for drama, just pressure relief. I thought about texting someone. But what do you say? Hey, just got told I'm worth half what I was yesterday. Want to grab lunch? Instead, I opened LinkedIn. I hadn't updated it in a year, but I clicked through the messages anyway, and one name caught my eye. Marcus Lynn, CEO of Chironics, X's biggest competitor. He had messaged me 3 months ago after a webinar I'd spoken at. Just a simple, impressive insights. Let's keep in touch. I hadn't replied. At the time, I was loyal, committed, dumb. But tonight? Tonight, I wasn't loyal. I was a mother, a strategist, a woman with 9 years of institutional knowledge and no patience left for being manipulated. I clicked reply. Hi, Marcus. I think it's time we talked. Not even 5 minutes later, a response lit up my screen. I was hoping you'd say that. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay on the couch with my laptop balanced on my legs, half scrolling through job listings, half watching Ava's baby monitor, trying not to spiral. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that number again. 55%, like it was burned onto the inside of my eyelids. You work somewhere for nearly a decade. You build systems, mentor teams, save projects at 3 a.m. You think you've earned something more than a line in a spreadsheet when it's time to trim fat. But apparently, I was just another cost center. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown caller. I hesitated, then picked up. Evelyn Hayes? The voice was calm, confident, familiar. Yes? This is Marcus Lynn. I wanted to catch you before the day gets away. Do you have time to talk? I sat up. Now's perfect. He laughed softly. I hoped you'd say that. I've been watching your work for a while. Your client retention numbers, your crisis recoveries, your name comes up a lot. There was no small talk, no fluff, just facts, direct and intentional. I saw your webinar on cross-market adaptation last fall, he continued. You solved in 30 minutes what most teams can't figure out in a quarter. If Hurinex is too short-sighted to see that, I'm not. My heart was pounding, but I forced myself to stay composed. I appreciate that, I said, but I didn't reach out last night for compliments. I didn't respond just to give them, he replied. What happened? So I told him. Everything. The pay cut, the veiled threat, the fake corporate language wrapped around something so deeply personal. When I finished, he didn't jump in right away. He let the silence sit. And then, that's disgraceful. But unfortunately, not surprising. What do you mean? You're not the first one. Hurinex has been hemorrhaging good people all year. First, it was the marketing director. Then 2 product leads. Quiet exits, NDA'd and forgotten. But I hear things. We all do. A pause. Then, what if I said we have a spot for you? I hesitated. Doing what? Building something better. Not patching holes in a sinking ship, but leading the way for once. I didn't say anything. I was too busy trying to slow my breathing. We've been assembling a new vertical, Marcus continued. It's client-facing, strategy-heavy, and we need someone who understands how to handle high-touch accounts. Someone who can think on their feet, who doesn't collapse under pressure. I exhaled slowly. When would you need an answer? Let's meet today, he said. Face to face. My team wants to meet you. If we click, you'll have an offer in hand by end of day. I glanced at the time. 6:12 a.m. Ava would be up by 7. I can drop my daughter at school and meet by 8:30, I said. There's a cafe across from our office, the Daily Grind, table by the window. I'll be there. When we hung up, I just sat there, phone in my lap, trying to believe what had just happened. This wasn't just about money. It was about being seen, about someone recognizing the years of invisible labor, late nights, and quiet sacrifices I had made while everyone else took credit. That morning, I packed Ava's lunch extra carefully. Gave her one of those long, embarrassing mom hugs in the carpool lane. She squirmed and said, "Mom, people are watching." I smiled. Good. She rolled her eyes but giggled. And just like that, I remembered what I was fighting for. By 8:25, I was seated at the cafe. Marcus walked in at 8:29. Tailored suit, no tie. Calm but alert eyes. The kind of person who reads every word you don't say. He extended his hand. Evelyn. Marcus. We sat, ordered coffee, and then he pulled out a folder. Not a paper napkin, not a vague email. A folder. Inside, a draft offer. Title, Director of Strategic Growth. Base salary, $162,000. Bonus potential, up to 30% annually. Healthcare, full coverage including dependents. Stock options, remote flexibility. My breath caught. It's not a favor, he said quietly. It's what you're worth. I looked at him. Why now? Why me? He smiled. Because you're the kind of person companies try to underpay until they realize they can't afford to lose you. And I'd rather invest in you before someone else wakes up and tries to do the same. I closed the folder. And for the first time in 24 hours, I smiled too. By the time I pulled into the Hurinex parking lot, the folder from Kyronix was in my bag, and my mind was sharp. No shaking hands this time. No breathless panic. I wasn't coming back for answers. I was coming back to deliver one. But let's not pretend I wasn't nervous. Because what if Marcus changed his mind? What if the offer vanished the second I turned down Hurinex? What if... No. I cut that thought off. I had spent too many years second-guessing myself, shrinking myself, making myself small enough to survive in a place that didn't care if I drowned, as long as I did it quietly. Not anymore. I took the elevator to the 14th floor. Everyone acted normal, smiled, nodded. Some even cracked tired jokes about spreadsheets and meetings. But I knew what was happening. They were watching me. Because word had spread. I had become the one they're trying to slash. And just like that, I wasn't invisible anymore. When I got to my desk, there was a calendar invite waiting. Compensation realignment follow-up, 9 a.m. Attendees, Evelyn Hayes, Jeremy Crawford, VP, Meredith Lee, HR. Meredith was the kind of HR rep who always looked exhausted, but somehow still had perfect lipstick. A walking contradiction in beige pumps. Jeremy was my boss, the same one who'd handed me a 55% pay cut with a smile like he was offering me a bonus. I walked into the meeting room right at 9 o'clock. They were already there. Evelyn, Jeremy said, gesturing to the seat across from him. Thanks for making time. I sat. Calm. Ready. Meredith smiled politely. We're just here to finalize your new compensation terms and make sure you feel supported through the transition. That word again. Supported. I didn't bother with pleasantries. I won't be accepting the revised offer, I said. Jeremy blinked. Excuse me. I'm not taking the pay cut. He leaned back slowly, folding his hands like he was dealing with a child refusing to eat her vegetables. We understand it's a big adjustment, he said, but the whole department is adapting to new financial realities. This isn't personal. That's funny, I said evenly. Because it feels personal. Meredith jumped in. Evelyn, no one is questioning your value. This is just about budget realignment. You want me to do the same work, actually more work, for nearly half the pay, I said. You called that realignment. I call it exploitation. Jeremy's face tightened. If this new arrangement doesn't work for you, we'll have to begin the offboarding process. We were hoping to retain your institutional knowledge during the transition. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. I placed it on the table, opened it, and slid it forward slowly. Meredith leaned in first. Her eyebrows rose. Jeremy didn't even touch it. He just glanced at the numbers and looked back at me. This is from Kirinix? He asked. I nodded. Director level, full salary, bonus, healthcare, stock options, remote flexibility, I said. You were right yesterday. Someone else would take me. Jeremy's jaw clenched. Meredith opened her mouth, closed it again. You've already accepted? He asked. Number, I wanted to give you the courtesy of hearing it from me directly. So you're leaving? I looked him in the eye. I'm walking away from a company that treated me like I was disposable. From a culture that hides behind spreadsheets and gaslights its employees into thinking starvation is loyalty. Jeremy glanced at Meredith. Evelyn, if you walk out now, you forfeit any severance. I smiled. Actually, no. According to my contract, still under pre-restructuring terms, a reduction in salary greater than 25% is classified as a constructive termination. I paused. I'm entitled to severance, and I'm not required to transition anything. Jeremy's face turned pale. Meredith began flipping through her notes with shaking fingers. This is a mistake, he said. Number. The mistake was assuming I'd stay silent, that I'd take whatever you handed me because I'm a mom, because I've got bills, because you thought I was trapped. I stood up. This meeting is over, and so is my time here. I turned to leave, then looked back. Oh, and if you're wondering who's going to handle the Mendoza account next quarter, you might want to ask Kirinix. And then I walked out, heels clicking on the tile, heart pounding. Not with fear, with freedom. I thought I'd feel victorious the second I walked out of that glass-walled meeting room. And I did, at first. But by the time I reached the parking lot, my legs were shaking. Not from regret. From adrenaline. From the terrifying freedom of jumping off a cliff and trusting that there's ground below somewhere, even if you can't see it yet. I sat in my car, staring at the steering wheel for what felt like an hour until my phone buzzed. Karenix. HR. Your welcome email is live, paperwork attached. Let us know if you have any questions. I opened the document. Offer letter, benefits, start date, digital signature. It felt real. I exhaled, signed it, and hit send. I had a job. I had a future. Now I just had to survive the present. When I walked through my front door, it was only 11 a.m. My house was still. Quiet. Too quiet. For once, the absence of noise didn't soothe me. It made the uncertainty echo louder. There's something no one tells you about starting over. The grief doesn't always hit when you expect it to. Sometimes it shows up in the middle of the day, when you're folding laundry and realize there's no work email to check. Sometimes it hits when your child notices. That afternoon, I picked Ava up from school myself. She was waiting near the bench with her little backpack on, turning a rock over and over in her hands like it held the answers to the universe. Her face lit up when she saw me. Mom. Hey, Starlight, I said, crouching to hug her. You're early. Yeah, figured I'd surprise you. Do you have the day off? I hesitated, then nodded. Something like that. We got ice cream. We walked home. We talked about her science project, the one she was terrified no one would understand. It wasn't until we got back and she sat at the kitchen counter, slurping melted vanilla and staring at me too hard, that she asked, Are you okay? I looked up from the sink. Of course. Why? You have your brave face on, she said simply. The one you use when something bad happened. That almost broke me, because she was right. Kids always know. Even when we try to protect them, they pick up the notes we drop between sentences. I dried my hands, sat beside her. I left my job today, I said. Remember how we talked about standing up for yourself? Even when it's hard? She nodded. Well, it was hard, but I did. She didn't speak right away. Then, are we still okay? Like our house and my school and Pluto? I blinked. Pluto? My telescope. It's still mine, right? I laughed. Then I cried. A weird mix of both, actually. Yeah, baby. Pluto and the telescope and the house? All still ours. Ava smiled. Then I think you did the right thing. That night, after she went to bed, I opened my laptop. I had 14 unread emails. 4 were from Hurinex clients, 2 from internal teammates. The rest? All from people I hadn't heard from in months. Coworkers, acquaintances, even an old mentor. Apparently, word had gotten out. Apparently, my quiet exit hadn't been that quiet. Devin from my team wrote, Heard what happened. Proud of you. Can we talk? Clara from marketing said, They tried to cut me too. I didn't have the guts to leave. You did. But the most surprising one was from Alex Wells, former vice president of partnerships at Hurinex, now at a consultancy in New York. They never deserved you. Let me know if you ever want to talk next moves. The industry's watching. That stuck with me. The industry's watching. I'd spent so long feeling invisible that I didn't realize people had actually been paying attention. Maybe not when I stayed late or fixed things quietly, but when I stood up, when I walked out, that's when they noticed. There's a saying in business. People don't quit jobs, they quit managers. But that's not true either. Sometimes we quit being overlooked. Sometimes we quit being small. And that night, sitting in my quiet house with Ava sleeping down the hall and the moonlight spilling across the floor, I realized something. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning of something much, much bigger. The first morning at Chironix felt nothing like my first day at Hurinex. There were no onboarding delays, no forgotten passwords, no half-hearted, let me see if someone can find you a desk vibes. They were ready for me. And that alone told me everything I needed to know. My new team, 7 people, most of them younger, all of them sharp, stood when I entered the conference room. Marcus introduced me as a strategic force and someone who doesn't need to be told what leadership looks like. I smiled politely, but inside I was still holding my breath. There's a strange kind of fear that comes after you finally get what you fought for. It's not fear of failure. It's fear of disappointing the version of yourself who believed this moment was worth everything you gave up. By 10 a.m., I had a company laptop, full admin access, and a calendar already filling up. Chironix didn't just give me a title. They gave me ownership, influence, trust. But the real shift came at noon. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. San Francisco area code. I answered cautiously. This is Evelyn. Evelyn, it's Dominic Pera, Mendoza Group. I sat up straighter. Dominic was one of Huronex's biggest accounts. One of my biggest accounts. We'd worked together for 3 years. I knew the names of his kids. He sent Ava a Lego rocket for her birthday last year. He didn't sound pleased. I just got a call from Jeremy, he said. He told me you're no longer with the company. Said I'd be transitioned to someone named Mallory. I don't know her. I barely know Jeremy. I waited. I didn't sign up to be bounced around. You were the reason we stayed through those outages last year. You were the reason we renewed. What's going on? I took a breath. I left. Voluntarily. They slashed my salary by more than half and expected me to keep the same workload. I said no. Silence. Then, good for you. I blinked. Really? Yeah, he said. And Evelyn, where are you now? I hesitated. Chironix had made it clear. They weren't poaching. If clients came, they came on their own. But I wasn't allowed to solicit them. Still, I could tell the truth. I'm at Chironix now. Another pause. Then Dominic laughed, low and dry. Of course you are. Marcus has good instincts. I'll be reaching out to his team. Before I could respond, he added, Tell Ava I'll be sending the new Mars rover set. It just came out. The call ended. I stared at the screen. Not poached, not coerced, just moved. 5 minutes later, another call. This time from Leanne at Dentrix Healthcare. Same story. Huronex had assigned a new account manager. Someone unfamiliar, unprepared, clearly reading from a script. We signed on because of you, Leanne said. You knew how to translate tech into human language. This new guy couldn't explain an Ethernet cable if his life depended on it. By 3 p.m., I'd received 4 more calls, all from former clients, all asking the same question, where are you now? That evening, I sat in my new office, the sun setting behind the skyline. My desk was still bare, no family photos yet, just a coffee mug and a notepad. Marcus knocked once and stepped in. You've been busy, he said. I nodded. They're calling me. I know. Dominic already emailed. So did Dentrix. He sat across from me. We're not going to push them, he said. If they come, they come. But if this continues, Evelyn, we're going to need a plan. A plan? He leaned forward. Because if even half of your clients follow you, we're not just hiring you anymore. We're rewriting the landscape. It hit me then. I hadn't just walked out of Huronex. I'd taken gravity with me. I didn't plan this, I said. I know, he replied. That's what makes it so powerful. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time, I didn't hesitate. I answered. 3 weeks after I left Huronex, the silence broke. I was in the middle of reviewing a Q3 pipeline chart when my phone lit up with a number I hadn't seen in over a year. Gerald Whitmore, the CEO of Huronex. He wasn't the kind of man who called casually. His assistants did that for him. If Gerald was calling, it meant one thing. Something was burning. I let it ring twice, then picked up. This is Evelyn. Evelyn, he said, voice tight and too polite. Hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I'm at work, I said plainly. What's this about? A pause. I've been brought up to speed on what happened. Your exit. The aftermath, I said nothing. Let him hang in it. He cleared his throat. We're seeing a concerning trend. Mendoza, Dentrix, Lumera, they've all ended their contracts. And we've been made aware they've moved to Coronix. You don't say. I don't have to tell you what that means for us. No, I said. You don't. He waited, maybe expecting me to soften, to apologize, to offer something. I didn't. We'd like to schedule a conversation, he continued. Discuss the possibility of rebuilding that relationship. It landed like a joke with no punchline. You mean after gutting my salary, stripping my accounts, and threatening to replace me? That was not authorized by executive leadership, he said quickly. Jeremy made some aggressive decisions under pressure. Jeremy was following a culture you built, I said. You don't get to pass the blame now. Silence. Evelyn, you were a key part of our success. And frankly, we can't afford to lose what you brought to this company. Correction, I said. You already did. I could almost hear him blink. Let me be clear, I added. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not seeking revenge. I'm just done. Surely there's a way we can... There isn't, I cut in. And if you were truly interested in protecting what you had, you'd have stepped in 3 months ago. Not now, after the clients are gone. After the trust is broken. After you've lost the one thing you can't buy back. What's that? Loyalty. I ended the call, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt light. Not victorious, not smug, just free. The next day, Devin called. I gave my notice, he said. They asked if I'd be willing to stay on to help with transition. I told them the only person I'd follow into battle again is already at Coronix. I smiled. We've got space. I'll talk to Marcus. A week after that, I met Leanne from Dentrix for lunch. She hugged me like we were old war buddies. They asked us to reconsider, she said, even offered a discount to stay. And? We like working with people who listen. People who treat us like partners, not just numbers on a retention report. She raised her glass. To knowing your worth. I raised mine back. To never forgetting it. That night, I tucked Ava in early. She was curled under her rocket blanket, her telescope angled toward the corner of the window where the moonlight slipped in. Are you going to work tomorrow? She asked sleepily. Yep, I said. But I'll be home for dinner, just like always. Promise? I do. Her eyes fluttered closed, and I just watched her for a while. Because when all the dust settles, and the emails stop, and the contracts change hands, and the office doors close for the last time, it's not the money or the company name that matters. It's what you built. It's the people who followed you, not because they had to, but because they chose to. It's the peace of knowing you didn't just survive. You chose yourself. They said I was replaceable. Turns out I was memorable. And that's a line they didn't see coming.